Today on Missing Number, a Garfield flash game that spawned a dark, grisly theory about the Garfield lore.
Listen, if you won't go on a date with me, I'll throw myself overboard.
A colorblind test that you shouldn't take. And a bizarre Sonic game about quote-unquote inflation. Missing Number starts now. There's a dark, gruesome theory about the Garfield lore, and it stems from an old official Garfield flash game. In the original 1970s Garfield comic strip, there were 4 main characters. Aside from Garfield the cat, Odie the dog, and John Arbuckle, who owned both Garfield and Odie, there was also John's friend and roommate Lyman. He was Odie's original owner, but after April 1983, Lyman completely disappeared from the comic strip without explanation. For years the fandom wondered about his disappearance. Garfield's creator Jim Davis later poked fun at the mystery by listing 10 reasons why Lyman disappeared in the 20th anniversary Garfield book, published in 1998. The tongue-in-cheek explanations included things like Lyman joining the CIA and becoming overweight.
Okay, where to now?
The number one reason, however, simply said to not look in John's basement. It was vague, but this would make sense 4 years later in 2002 when the official Garfield website hosted a playable flash game called Garfield's Scary Scavenger Hunt. It was a point-and-click puzzle game where Garfield had to find snacks hidden in a haunted house. Inside was a bookshelf, and behind it was a hidden basement where you could find none other than Lyman chained up in a cell. He looked emaciated and appeared to be missing his middle fingers. There were also skulls and bones of other victims in the cell, and when you clicked on Lyman, he would ask for food. Things took a darker turn when Lyman's head could be found in an oven in the game's sequel. So this is why Lyman disappeared from the Garfield comic strip. People believed that John was a serial killer who locked up Lyman in his basement, perhaps to keep Odie for himself. This would explain the creepier side of John, like when he incessantly asks women out, despite them saying no.
Listen, if you won't go on a date with me, I'll throw myself overboard. What do you say to that?
It's so bad that John has actually gotten restraining orders. It's tantalizing to think that John is a crazy murderer who killed Lyman, but there are logical fallacies with the notion. Firstly, the scavenger hunt game never mentions that the haunted house belongs to John. Secondly, John is actually sitting outside of the haunted house and explicitly mentions Lyman, so clearly John's not trying to keep Lyman a secret. And thirdly, despite Lyman being locked up in the dungeon and looking feeble, you can actually see him taking a shower in the bathroom, and he looks healthy. The inclusion of Lyman in the game is most likely just a fun nod to both Davis's basement joke and the years-long mystery surrounding Lyman's disappearance from the comic strip. What's more, Davis revealed that the actual reason why Lyman vanished was because Garfield replaced his role as someone that John could talk to. In 2012, Lyman finally re-emerged in the animated Garfield show. In a 4-part episode, it's revealed that Lyman became a wildlife photographer who disappeared while searching for a mythological creature in Australia. Garfield, Odie, and John searched for Lyman and eventually found him in the jungle, dressed as the creature to protect wildlife from poachers. It's pretty over the top, and is almost as equally nutty as the theory that John is a psychopathic murderer who has a secret dungeon. If you like this video so far, be sure to subscribe, like, and click the bell icon for notifications. If you have any gaming myths, mysteries, oddities, or Easter eggs, be sure to let me know. You can also check out my other YouTube channel and watch me live on Twitch. The links are in the video description. Now back to the show. In 2002, there was a self-explanatory Are You Colorblind test that people could take online. It was a flash game made by a website called dragonsplace.co.uk, and it was essentially an Ishihara test. It consisted of numbers that were inside circles that you had to identify. The circles were made up of colored dots, while the numbers were contrasting colors. someone with color blindness would either have difficulty seeing the numbers or wouldn't be able to see them at all. In the Flash game, users were instructed to enter the numbers in input fields. Then at the end, a final score was to be calculated based on the user's accuracy. Here was the test. It turned out that the test was a screamer jumpscare game. The images that flash on screen show someone with severe conjunctivitis. There's also text that appears that says, "You're colorblind." No final score is actually calculated at the end screen. It simply says "you loser." But on the bottom right corner of the screen, there's tiny text. According to a commenter named Dr. Oddball on the game's wiki page, the text says, quote, "There is also a prank colorblind test from Liquid Generation. This is neither a parody nor a remake and has no affiliation." Attempting to visit the website that created this fake colorblind test prompted my antivirus to block the URL for phishing. With the rising cost of living and an uncertain economic future, many people are having a harder time affording everyday things. So you would think that a game called Sonic Inflation Adventure would be about money, but you'd be wrong. In the Flash game, which was uploaded to Newgrounds on October 26, 2014, your character mysteriously transforms into Sonic, and you decide to go to a bar with Knuckles to pick up girls. You end up bumping into Amy and Rouge, who you have sex with. With Rouge in particular, you play an oral sex minigame where you have the option to urinate. When you finish, Rouge puts vinyl tubing in her mouth and you start pumping air into her body. However, you overdo it and she blows up and dies. The same thing happens with Amy. The game then cuts to a cinematic showing Sonic fan artwork depicting body inflation. It's a fetish where one gets sexual gratification from inflating someone's body.
Hi there, I'm Sonic the Hedgehog, and welcome to my inflation adventure.
When the cutscene ends, you appear in court for murder, and the game turns into Ace Attorney. You're ultimately found guilty and get locked up in prison, along with Knuckles, who now wants to kill you for ruining his life. At some point you play a minigame where you find a syringe in a toilet and vinyl tubing under a bed. A guard also comes by to deliver you a balloon for your birthday, and right before Knuckles is about to murder you, you quickly inflate yourself and float out of the prison. The game ends when you float by the Statue of Liberty and hear a monologue from Solid Snake about leading the next generation.
Life isn't just about passing on your genes. We can leave behind much more than just DNA. Through speech, music, literature, and movies, what we've seen, heard, felt, anger, joy, and sorrow. These are the things I will pass on. That's what I live for. We need to pass the torch and let our children read our messy and sad history by its light. We have all the magic of the digital age to do that with. The human race will probably come to an end sometime, and new species may rule over this planet. Earth may not be forever, but we still have the responsibility to leave what traces of life we can. Building the future and keeping the past alive are one and the same thing.
Sonic Inflation Adventure was made by someone named Jim Chaotic. He said he made the game in 2006, and years later, when he moved back into his parents' house, he found the game on his hard drive and decided to finish it up and release it. 2 sequels were made, and apparently the series was poking fun at how ridiculous and implausible some fanfiction was. Some fanbases even have a penchant for creating artwork of characters participating in strange fetishes, as seen in the aforementioned cutscene in Sonic Inflation Adventure. Some consider the game a masterpiece in satire, while others consider it trash.